Should we tax robots? A study suggests a robot tax, but only a small one, could help fight or combat the effects of automation on income or renda inequality in the United States. Welcome to the English Language Learning Podcast. You can find the Leitura na descrição no canal do YouTube. You can find the link to the reading, to the Leitura in the description section for every video on YouTube, com as perguntas no fim para dar respostas e também vocabulário interessante. Today's topic, taxing robots. Should we tax robots? Study suggests a robot levy or tax, but only a modest one could help combat or fight the effects of automation, automação, on income inequality in the U.S. And income inequality is desigualdade de renda. So continuing from the reading, this is from, I believe, AP News. That might be incorrect, but again, you can find the link in the description for each video. Should we tax robots? A study suggests a robot levy, but only a modest one, could help combat the effects of automation on income inequality in the United States. What if the United States placed a tax on robots? The concept has been publicly discussed by policy analysts, scholars, and Bill Gates, who favors the notion. Because robots can replace jobs, the idea goes, a stiff tax on them would give firms incentive to help retain or keep workers, while also compensating for a drop-off in payroll taxes when robots are used. Thus far, South Korea has reduced incentives for firms to deploy robots. European Union policymakers, on the other hand, considered a robot tax but did not enact it. Now, a study by Massachusetts Institute of Technology economists scrutinizes or examines the existing evidence and suggests the optimal policy in this situation would indeed include a tax on robots, but only a modest or small one. The same applies to taxes on foreign trade or importações, imports. That would also reduce U.S. jobs, the research finds. That is all that we're going to read, but they give us some more details. So they say a small tax, imposto pequena. So what exactly? 1% to 3.7% of the value of the robot being taxed. And import taxes from 0.03% até 0,11%. Ponto 0,11%. So 0.03% to 0.11. This is virgula, point, punto. So they talk about giving a tax or making a tax on robots because robots can take jobs, right? Also because when there is less people working, because robots are taking people's jobs, there's also a loss in tax revenue, right? Because people give money to the government from their paycheck. And if people aren't getting paychecks because they're not working, then the government is losing money to do things. So that is the reason. That is the basis for the tax. They mention originally people think a big tax, right? We need to do a big tax to incentivize companies to, hey, keep people. Use robots, but keep people because they're going to make it expensive to use robots. But this study says, no, you don't need a big tax on robots, just a small one. They also say that over time, with more robots the impact diminishes or goes down, decreases. And so robot taxes actually could be reduzidos, could be reduced in the future because less robots or each additional, cada adicional tem menos impacto, tem menos força para mudar, para afetar remunerações, pagamentos e impostos. So you can pode diminuir o imposto dos robôs com mais e mais e mais tempo e mais robôs. That is all we will read. Again, you can find the reading, the leitura, in the description on the YouTube channel. Coming up next, you can listen or skip a section on all things English. There's lots of not extremely technical vocabulary, but this is there's a lot of words that are in English more or less the same as in Portuguese, but very specific to the topic of the economy. So coming up next, all things English. Should we tax robots? A new study, this is in December 2022, a new study from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, suggests a robot levy, L-E-V, epsilon, L-E-V-Y, but only a modest one, a small one, could help fight the effects of more robots on income inequality in the U.S. So a levy, L-E-V-Y, is another word for a tax, imposto. The notion, this is the same in English, the same in Portuguese. Different letters, slightly different pronunciation, but the same meaning, the same significance. The concept has been publicly discussed by policy analysts, scholars, and Bill Gates, who favors the notion, quem gosto a noção, the notion, the idea, the concept. Because robots can replace jobs, this is our modal alert, can replace. The rules of modals, quickly, modals come before other verbs, not other modals. You cannot have two modals, not can, might replace jobs, or can, will replace jobs, or can, should replace jobs. No. You can't use two modals together. You can only use one, and it comes before the verb. You do not conjugate a modal. It's never shoulds or cans or wills. And you always need, again, some verb after a modal. Unless you're just responding. Ou sessão é isso, que no caso que você está só respondendo, dando uma resposta simples, você pode falar só should, would, I would, he wouldn't, she might, he could, they would, they will never, or whatever the modal is. If you're giving a simple response, you don't need to add the verb, right? And a reminder, modals translated to Portuguese, os modals traduzidos no português, sempre são uma conjugação ou uma palavra, como poderia. But the ia would be would. I would go, eu iria. I can go, eu posso ir. I could go, eu podia or poderia ir. I will go, eu irei. Or vou aí. I'm gonna go, right? Gonna. So, quick pause there for modals because robots can replace, and replace would be to substitute. They mention a stiff tax, right? The original idea is a stiff tax, S-T-I-F-F, a stiff tax versus a modest tax, imposto modesto. A stiff tax is a substantial tax, a big tax. Imposto rígido, or grande, or penoso. What else do we have here? Firms. A stiff tax on them would give firms an incentive to help retain or keep workers. Firms, F-I-R-M-S. This is a common word for companies, businesses, empresas. I don't think you use firmo. No, I don't think we use that in Portuguese, right? I don't have that in the Portuguese section of my brain. A drop-off. This is their explanation in the first big paragraph of the taxes from imposto de renda diminuindo por culpa dos robôs sendo usados mais que trabalhadores humanos. And they mention, while also compensating for a drop-off in payroll taxes when robots are used. A drop-off is a drop, a decrease. A decrease. Diminution, if that's a word in English. How do we say this in Portuguese? Uma caída, uma queda. Queda. When something goes down, it could be the quality, could be the quantity. You could have a drop-off in quality of a product. You can have a drop-off in the sale of a product. In this one, they're mentioning a drop-off of tax revenue or arrecadação, right? Collection of money from enumerações das pessoas, dos trabalhadores humanos. Because you don't pay robots and they don't pay taxes in their income. Os robôs não ganham uma renda e nessa renda inexistente eles não estão dando imposto ao governo, né? Então ele está falando de uma queda nos impostos de renda pelo governo. Any other words here? I don't think there was anything else in the section that I was reading. If you read more of the article, they talk about wages, remunerações, remunerations. They talk about enacting a law. To enact, E-N-A-C-T, is implementar imposto, implementar lei. Right now in Brazil, today is the 3rd of May, terceiro de maio, and the government is talking about, the Brazilian government, enacting a law regulating social media, so implementando. Coming up next, we have questions and conversation, and why does this matter to Brazil in the next segment. Should we tax robots? Should we tax robots? Or should robots pay taxes? It's another way of thinking about it, right? Humans do work. We're human, and so we need to eat, sleep under a roof. Teto, baixo teto, under a roof. We need to take care of our children, our health, our bodies, our mental health. We need to have fun. We need money to do those things. So companies who pay us money to do the work, we take the money and we do human things. But what about robots? They don't have human needs yet. Not yet. Robots don't need money for their health. They, at least not from their own pocket. They don't need money for children. They don't need money for a roof. They don't need money for entertainment, a place to live. No, they don't pay taxes to the government because they don't ganhar uma renda. They don't earn an income. So that's the idea of the article we read. Should we tax robots? The article was based on a study. Actually, the article was from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. And they suggested that a small robot tax actually has evidence to help fight the effects, os efeitos of automação na desigualdade de renda nos Estados Unidos. Oh, Jesus Christ. In los Estados Unidos. Who's with me? So this study was focused on the U.S. This study was different because they only used existing evidence and statistical modeling. They didn't have any pre-existing notion or idea, or they didn't have any influence in how the data would look when after they finished their study. So they mentioned at the beginning that usually the idea is tax robots a lot to get money, to get a lot of money, also to incentivize firms, companies to keep people in their business, to not just fire a bunch of people for robots that you don't have to pay money. You have to pay money to make them and to keep them working, but you do not have to pay them money to live, and they don't make a minimum wage. They make no wages. So we did the vocab. Now we have questions. My first question: do you think or fear your job or your future job might be stolen by a robot? Why or why not? Se você acha ou se você tem medo que seu trabalho ou trabalho do futuro pode ser roubado por robô. Porque sim ou porque não? What do you do? What is your job? Can a robot do it yet? Do you think a robot might do it soon? I am a teacher. There are robots doing my job right now. There are many applications. They don't do it exactly the same. And most people need English to speak to other humans. So maybe there's always a value in a human teacher, because human conversation so far is not replicated. Não está replicado o jeito que os humanos conversam e pensam, né? Então talvez meu trabalho está mais ou menos confortável. But again, there's Duolingo, right? Duolingo. There, it's an application that teaches people, or alega, ensinar idioma às pessoas, né? You don't have to pay, whoever invented Duolingo pays programmers and coders, but they don't need to pay the application, and it does my job. So I'm a little bit worried, yeah. Also, I just saw a commercial recently on TV during the NBA playoffs. It's a commercial for Google Translator. And, Google Translator is very effective, but not to speak for you, right? It usually gives you words, and you have to say them. There is a voice option, right? I can use it now. Let's see if it will get on here.
Levy.
There we go. There she is. She said levy, imposto. Now, the commercial on NBA playoffs was someone in a social moment at a basketball court using Google Translate to speak for them. And they didn't type, right? They didn't digitar. They didn't type words into Google Translate. They spoke in their language, and then Google Translate communicated in English. So, but what do you do? Is your job at risk of being given to a robot? Have you seen iRobot? That's my next question. Have you seen iRobot? Present perfect. Have you seen? Have you gone? Have you visited? Have you tried? Have you heard? So, have you seen iRobot? iRobot is not about taxing robots. It's not about replacing human jobs. It's about the bigger background theme of robots and artificial intelligence, IA, chegando à conclusão que os humanos precisam protetores porque eles são mata. And so that iRobot, relevant film, not exactly the same topic because it's not about the very real world of jobs in robots, not survival in robots. Not like in Marvel too. Marvel is the same thing, right? Ultron is, it's not about a bunch of, you know, simple Ultrons taking jobs and, you know, Captain America fighting for jobs against the Ultron, you know, corporate company. That would be interesting. It is also, Ultron is also the idea that the risk of artificial intelligence is it becomes intelligent and it realizes that we are not intelligent and we do not practice intellect and we need protection. So, but have you seen iRobot? I have. I think it's a great movie. Love Will Smith. Pre-slap. Next question. Say, write, or think in English one good thing about taxes. So compliment taxes. Give me one good thought, pensamento bom dos impostos. And I know that's probably difficult, but taxes, you can think of some good things. So tax money is supposed to help people, right? It's supposed to, I could talk about one specific tax in the U.S. Marijuana, maconha, imposto da maconha in Colorado is used. The tax revenue from marijuana in Colorado is used for public schools. There you go. Great. I don't live in Colorado, but I buy marijuana or share it, however, whatever is the legal expression here. If I bought marijuana, se eu comprasse maconha, if I bought marijuana in Colorado, I would feel good knowing that, hey, my use of marijuana, my purchase is promoting education in public schools in the state. That's a good thing. Okay, now go ahead. What do you not like about taxes? Say something bad about taxes. Fala alguma coisa ruim. O que você não gosta dos impostos? Well, perdice, right? Is that the right word in Portuguese? Loss, waste, wasting tax money. I think the city of Sao Paulo, you know, thing, I don't remember the number, but there was a recent story about Sao Paulo and todo o dinheiro que eles têm, mas não estão usando, né, que só fica. E eles não usam o dinheiro que as pessoas estão pagando. E pode perguntar qualquer pessoa, em qualquer bairro no São Paulo, os bairros ricos, os bairros pobres, especialmente, particularmente, e qualquer pessoa pode pensar numa coisa regionalmente específica que eles precisariam dinheiro dos impostos públicos para usar, right? People can think of and specifically give you things that tax money could help, but the Sao Paulo government wastes it. They don't use it. So that is what most people don't like. Tax money just not doing anything. Our final question is, what do you think about a robot tax? That was the ultimate theme of the article, right? It's not about artificial intelligence. It's just about robot taxes and the size, o tamanho do imposto. And they mention, just uma lembrança, a reminder, they mention that no, we don't need a big, stiff, rigid tax. We actually need a small tax, 1% to about 4% of the price of the cost of the robot, and also a very small tax on importações and imports, not a big tax. So what do you think? O que você acha da noção do imposto dos roubos? Why do I think this matters to Brazil? What's the relevancy? Why is this? Porque isso é relevante ao brasileiro? Brazil already has a high unemployment rate, taxa de desempregado alto. If industrial robots and robots become adopted, the problem could get even worse. Another modal, could. Poderia virar pior. Poderia piorar. Additionally, Brazilians import lots of goods, lots of things from China and Europe, and some things from the U.S. Well, not a lot from the U.S. The study highlights that a small tax on imports or importations, importações, that risk domestic jobs should be combined with a small robot tax. So this is a topic in Brazil that's hot right now. Taxes on importações. This is a good idea. Not a big tax, a small tax, and it has to be combined, or it should be combined. Deveria ter combinado. Deveria, should be. Not deveria ter. Deveria ser combinado, right? Should be. Deveria ser. Should be combined with a robot tax, that these two things should go together. So that's the relevance to Brazil. Thanks for listening to this episode of the English Language Learning Podcast on taxing robots. Inscrever, subscribe, leave a like, a dislike, a comment. Anything is good. I hope you learned something, even one thing. Thanks for listening.